Hi, it's Dr. Pavanka. I just got in from making sure my horses are okay for the night, and then I brought Tattoo out because he doesn't really like to be in his enclosure if I'm home and he can do stuff. I think he gets a little bit bored. So with the cold weather that we're seeing here in Michigan, we always come to that discussion on whether to blanket our horses or not. I have to say, I used to be that person that I really was kind of more adamant that they don't really need blankets because ideally there should be little pockets of air in their hair coat to keep them warm. That said, it's really nice to have a blanket on them that you can just pull the blanket off, ride them, make sure they're cool and dry, and then put it back on because it keeps them nice and clean, and you're not sitting there with your metal curry comb trying to get all the mud and ice out of their hair coat. My typical rule of thumb currently is if it's below 20, I do blanket both my horses. Nightfall, my feral horse from Kentucky, he actually has a little bit of extra fat on him right now, so he probably doesn't need that as much as Regal, and he typically does undress himself when I put his blanket on. He's actually more interested in undressing Regal, but Regal is my senior Arab gelding, and because he's older and he has a harder time holding on to his nutrients, I do have more issues with him and keeping weight on him in the winter. The rule of thumb I was always taught is you want them to be a little bit on the heavier side if they are going to be outdoors more so in the winter, just because we know they're going to lose some weight over the winter. But with our seniors, it is really hard for them to hold on to those nutrients sometimes. So I typically lean on the side of blanketing Regal early. The flip side is that I'm talking functional with the blankets there, but the flip side is if you have a show horse, a lot of times you don't want them to grow a coat as much. So that's when you start putting your light sheets on early, blanket on top of blanket to make sure that they keep that thin coat, which is easier and quicker to dry out for riding. A lot of times we do see that coat change, the winter coat come in with those shorter days that we get, and I don't know about you, but I'm definitely feeling those. And once we have those longer days start coming after, was it December 21st, that's when we start seeing those summer coats come back in and we shed out that winter coat. So do keep an eye on your horses, make sure they're nice and warm. One of the biggest things is making sure they have enough forage to eat because that does help with warmth. But let me know if you have any questions, but that's my idea of when to blanket. Everybody has their own way and their own method, but whatever works for you. Thank you.